2 days from primary election day, and Michigan's Secretary of State warns the votes that have already been cast could mean lengthy delays announcing the winners. That and President Trump wonders aloud whether the pandemic and its attendant complications should delay the election in November. Today is Sunday, August 2nd, 2020, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, welcome to Flashpoint. You know, we keep saying that so many things are the strangest or most surreal in memory, like opening day at Comerica Park this past week. Very strange indeed. And we're going to say the same thing about Tuesday, which is primary election day in Michigan. Now, the pandemic has already torpedoed typical campaign strategies. We're about to see what it's doing to the electorate. We already know that a massive 2 million voters requested absentee ballots in Michigan, and more than 1 million of them had already been turned in as of Friday, the last count I saw. But here's the thing. And you already know this if you're a loyal member of the Flashpoint family, those ballots cannot be opened until Tuesday morning. That means a traffic jam is built into the system, even if there isn't one at the polling places. Now, last week, Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson applied a little expectation management by telling us we should not expect to know the winners as we head to bed Tuesday night. In fact, we may not know them as we head to bed Wednesday night. President Trump has long made it clear he is no fan of mailing in your ballot. And last week, he floated a trial balloon on Twitter wondering if the November election should be delayed until the coronavirus battle allows for more in-person voting. Now, even among Republicans, that idea went over like burlap bed sheets, but it's part of a broader question over whether we're ready for a pandemic election. And Secretary of State Benson is going to be here to talk about readiness for Tuesday in a moment. We'll also let our roundtable weigh in, too, as we set the stage for next week in politics, which will include the announcement of Joe Biden's running mate. All coming up today on Flashpoint. Well, we have checked in several times with Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson over the absentee ballot change in Michigan, now that anyone can request an absentee ballot for any reason, all, of course, now intensified by the pandemic. And now, 2 days from the primary, she's back with us to talk about what we expect not only on Tuesday, but what we're learning now as we march toward November. Great to have you back on Flashpoint, Secretary Benson. Let me start. You now have over 1 million of these ballots have been turned in. You had requests for about 2 million of them. Can you put into context how much bigger you think this will be when it comes to absentee ballot vote and counting for you than we've ever seen before in the state?
Yeah, I mean, we're on track to double, if not triple, the record we've already had for absentee ballots voted in one single election. 2 million people have requested to vote by mail in Tuesday's primary. That is nearly twice the amount that has ever been requested before. 1.15 million was the amount from the November 2016 presidential election. That was our previous record. So we're talking about a system that's going to be processing and handling twice as many ballots sent through the mail than ever before for a primary. So we're on track to, in my view, triple that. We're preparing for, I should say, close to 3 million people voting by mail this November and putting the infrastructure and parameters in place to make sure that we can receive all those ballots and process them effectively. Now,
the last time you were on the program, you talked about some of the problems that your mail-out has sort of revealed. Names that are duplicated, addresses that are old, people who are no longer alive. How much of that has been now, I guess I want to say, fixed, or is that still going to be a problem going forward?
Well, what this mailing helped us do back in May are two things. One, give everyone an efficient way to request to vote by mail if they chose to do so. But through bounce backs and other ways in which we've heard back from people to say, hey, this person has moved or has passed away, it's enabled us to do a blanket mailing and catch a lot of the ineligible or individuals who've moved or are no longer voting in Michigan and begin the process of removing them from our voter file. So it's been very helpful in that regard. And that's why if anyone does still receive or did receive something that wasn't addressed to them, just hit return to send or send it back to us so we can process that appropriately to someone who's moved or is no longer eligible.
Now, you this past week tried to adjust our or set our expectations on what is going to happen here on Tuesday. We are not going to go to bed knowing who the winners are in many of these races. How daunting does this look to you, and how long do you think it's going to take?
Well, we're estimating it'll take a few more days because remember, if you've got twice as many ballots voted through the mail than ever before, it's going to take twice as much time to process them and count them. And yet we still have not been given the go-ahead from the legislature to begin processing those ballots any earlier than 7 a.m. on Election Day. So we've got really the same time that we've always had, but twice as many ballots. And in November, it may be 3 times as many. We hope the legislature acts by then. But until then, we did provide with our clerks with more high-speed ballot tabulators, envelope openers, and more people to help increase their capacity. But it's still just going to take more time.
You've been on Flashpoint a couple of times, sort of begging the legislature to create a better system for you. Can you see any legitimacy in their argument that this really does need to begin on Election Day? That's what Election Day is for, and you really shouldn't start until the polls have opened.
I agree that tabulation, actually counting the ballots, should not happen until Election Day, and there's lots of reasons for that. But preparing the ballots to be counted can happen before Election Day. It does happen in 18 states, including Florida, which the governor just gave the Secretary of State even more time this past week to begin processing ballots sent through the mail prior to Election Day. So it's nothing that's a sort of novel idea. It's actually put in place to ensure and protect the security of the system so that when the counting begins, clerks can do that efficiently and securely and with bright eyes and focus as opposed to after a long Election Day or something like that.
Well, let's get now to the security issue. As you know, the president remains not a big fan of mail-in voting. He said this week that it's become obvious to him, and he says to others, that it is rife with fraud. And as he put it, that's common sense. Everyone knows it. Smart people know it. Stupid people may not know it. I'm going to assume he was talking about you. He has pointed you out in particular. He singled you out before.
Well, first of all, I look to the voters of Michigan where people on both sides of the aisle are clearly embracing and voting by mail, and that's who I work for. So that's my focus, and making sure that their process is secure and safe, and they have confidence in it. And that's why the signature verification process, which we've talked about before, and people can read about on our website, michigan.gov/election security, to see all the ways in which we're protecting against fraud. That process has been in place for years, for decades in other states. It works well. When there is fraud, we catch it. And we react appropriately. But more importantly, my focus is also ensuring that we give citizens the system of elections they want. And citizens voted this system, the vote by mail option, in 2018. And my job is simply to execute their will safely and securely. And that's what we've done.
Do you want to react to the president and his suggestion? Has been roundly criticized, but his thought that he said he didn't want to move the election, but that we might have to out of matters of safety over COVID.
Well, I think a couple of things. One, myself and my colleagues, secretaries of state all across the country swiftly reacted to that and said, as the state's chief election officers in our respective states, we've got this, we're ready. Our elections will be secure, safe, and on time across the country. So no need to talk about whether or not we need to delay. What we do need to talk about is federal funding that would all welcome into our states to help us better prepare and more efficiently plan for all of the changes that we have to adjust and adapt for, preparing for November. But as, again, the chief election officer for the state of Michigan, I'm proud to say we're ready for Tuesday, we're ready for November, and our elections will remain secure, safe, accessible, and on time.
Last question then regarding that safety. Voters have the choice of whether or not they want to vote in person or if they want to vote absentee. Your poll workers don't have that choice. They can't work Election Day absentee. Are you concerned about their safety? They have to be there all day.
Well, a few months ago, we launched a statewide recruitment effort, and through that, we've recruited 5,000, and we've recruited and trained 5,000 poll workers who can be deployed across the state so that people who don't want to work on Election Day don't have to, and we'll bring in and backfill those vacancies. We're also providing PPE, masks, gloves, hand sanitizer, social distancing guidelines for every single precinct and jurisdiction in the state. So we're doing everything we can to ensure that our in-person voting option is safe and secure as well, and that we're protecting not just our voters, but our election workers.
Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, I know we'll be talking to you as we move through this week, not only Election Day, but in the aftermath as well. Thanks very much for the time on Flashpoint.
Absolutely, Devin. Talk to you soon.
You bet. We'll take a quick break. We'll bring the roundtable in and let them weigh in on this and a number of other matters next on Flashpoint on Local 4.
The sun and high heat can fry your car's paint job. But Mako can make it look like it never happened. Act now with our paint sales starting at $4.99. Uh-oh, better get Mako.
Always there for you. Come experience the Gowling difference at Gowling Alfa Romeo of Birmingham.
Shop with us online at Alfa Romeo of Birmingham.com for incredible offers from the comfort and safety of your home. During the Summer of Speed event, lease a 2020 Alfa Romeo Giulia with all-wheel drive for just $309 a month. Or lease the 2020 Alfa Romeo Stelvio with all-wheel drive for $349 a month. Don't wait. Visit Alfa Romeo of Birmingham.com today.
While Beaumont has been leading Michigan through the COVID-19 pandemic, we've remained dedicated to providing safe, extraordinary care for all of our patients.
And whatever your medical needs are, we are here to safely care for you. So don't delay coming to the emergency center. Now is the time to reschedule a screening that was postponed.
Our expert Beaumont doctors and caregivers are here to help catch health conditions before they become more serious.
The sun and high heat can fry your car's paint job. But Mako can make it look like it never happened. Act now with our paint sales starting at $4.99. Uh-oh, better get Mako.
It's a great local place to get hands-on with sea life. But how does that work during a pandemic?
We want our guests to have fun. We want the kids to really love it, but the safety comes first.
Find out how they're keeping everyone safe.
But they've done even more to make sure the experience is just as good.
Join us Monday at 6 a.m. on Local 4 News Today. Live in the D is making your summer sizzle. Get the inside scoop on where to find the fun in Metro Detroit. Weekdays at 10 a.m. on Local 4.
All right, welcome back. Let's bring on our roundtable for today. Good to have back with us Portia Roberson, the CEO of Focus Hope, former Republican Congressman Dave Trott, and joining us from his vacation, very kind to do that up north, Chad Livengood, senior editor for Crain's Detroit Business. Gang, good to have you here. Congressman Trott, I'd like to start with you and your thoughts on this dust up now. The president just keeps hammering away at how fraudulent he believes mail-in voting. We've just now talked to Jocelyn Benson about how big that's going to be, the portion of the vote coming in Michigan. Is the president just trying to lay the groundwork here to make us all suspect that the vote isn't a fair one? Or what do you think is really happening?
Well, I think he's laying the groundwork to explain his potential loss in November. And he can't change the election. Congress sets the election. So he's talking about something that he doesn't have the power to do. I think there'll be problems with the election. I think that people are going to be afraid to vote because of the pandemic. I think the mail-in ballots will take an inordinate amount of time to count. But the fact of the matter is we need to have an election, and the results will be the results. And if the president thinks that it was subject to fraud or some kind of rigged election, then he can write a book about it and go hold a rally and tell people that he was robbed after he's out of office.
Portia, you got a smile on your face there.
I like everything the congressman said. He can go write a book about it because I think there's no question that he foresees how this election is going to turn out. Now he's tainting the waters by saying how much this election is going to be rigged. Look, we've conducted elections for years and years and years and years, and we've managed to do it through a whole lot of other turmoils. We'll do it through this. I think people will be sort of dismayed by how long it's going to take. It's going to take a little longer than usual. You know, those of us who are junkies and like to keep refreshing our computer and see what the election results are and are watching you all to tell us what the election results are, we're going to have to live through the night and probably a couple of weeks without really knowing for sure. But we'll get there, and we'll make sure that Donald Trump is packing his bags soon thereafter.
Well, as one of the two reporters on this conversation, I'm not comfortable forecasting anything that's going to happen yet in November because I have no idea what the world landscape is going to look like. Chad, I'm going to guess you're with me?
Yeah, Devin, I got out of the predictions business in 2016. But, yeah, I mean, the president has been framing mail-in voting as bad, but absentee voting good. A little bit of a hint here, absentee voting is predominantly done by mail. It has been for at least 4 decades in Michigan. We just have greatly expanded it. The voters of Michigan voted in two years ago to amend the Constitution to allow anyone to vote absentee by mail. You can also take an absentee ballot to the clerk's office. Now, that is actually coming into focus for Tuesday's primary because the mail is running late. I mean, it's been running late for months now.
Yep.
Anybody who's just gets a normal subscription that comes, even Cranes is sometimes running late in people's inbox or mailboxes. And so because of that, if you have an absentee ballot still, you need to go take it to the clerk by hand on Saturday or Monday because it's not gonna arrive if you drop it in the mail on Monday. And that is an issue that has to get worked out. But at the same time, we're going to have more people voting absentee than ever, possibly 1/3 of the entire vote, and that could delay counting in this primary, and this is going to be the first run at it, and then also could delay counting in the November election.
Let me ask you all then about the pandemic. This is part of the pandemic response. Congressman, we've got people being urged to vote by mail. We have not seen as many people being urged not to protest because of the pandemic. We kept things open. In fact, right now, I think a lot of people are a little confused that we've closed the bars but opened the casinos. And this, I guess, circles us back to Michigan. But what are your thoughts on the way that we're responding to the pandemic right now?
Well, it's a fragmented response that's wholly inadequate. I have great empathy for our governor and our president even because on some level, if we had put the country into a complete lockdown like we should have, then the numbers would have been low and businesses would have been destroyed and people would have said, well, gosh, that was much to do about nothing. On the other hand, if we don't shut down, then the numbers are awful, then it's his fault as well. But, fundamentally, if you look at the testing in this country and what's happened in other countries, it's really the best example of how we've failed. We needed a national response to coordinate all of this. And when Donald Trump realized that he couldn't revive the economy to save his reelection, he punted to the states and municipalities. And that's been a great disservice to the entire country.
Portia, your job is largely to help people find work. I can't imagine a worse job to have in the middle of what we're going through right now. What are your thoughts on the way we're responding?
Well, yeah, at one point we had 40 million people out of work. We're going to lose unemployment. I think we did lose it the end of this week or beginning of this past week. It's going to be difficult. I mean, there are going to be people who are going to have to go into new industries because the industries that they were previously in don't have the jobs for them anymore. And we're going to, of course, have new people who need to go into work. So it's going to be a difficult challenge. Certainly, we, want to do all the training we can. But the most important thing that we focused on at Focus Hope is to make sure that anybody who comes through our doors actually gets placed in employment. So we're working with across the board, all kinds of industries to put, like I said, new people coming into employment, but also some of those people who can't go back to the jobs they held previously.
Yeah. Chad, what are your thoughts on the way the governor has been handling this so far? The polls would seem to suggest that most Michiganders are on her side, but you have to wonder what the statute of limitations is on that.
Where I think right now where we're at is all focus is on getting kids back to school. 1.5 million school children back in classrooms the first Tuesday after Labor Day. And that is the Herculean challenge right now facing more than 800 school districts. Yeah. And so the restrictions we have in place now, yes, we're trying to keep the virus from making a comeback, but we're mostly trying to figure out how to get schools reopened. That is a linchpin of economic activity in this country. And if you do not have those kids in school, they are home, their parents are working from home, or their parents continue to have to be laid off or unemployed, and you continue to have 1 million people in the state of Michigan on unemployment, and we would just be in continued economic malaise for months and maybe years to come. So, the governor's decision this week to reopen the casinos, but then close bars up north for indoor service. That was a head scratcher for some, and she hasn't shown the data yet. I mean, House Speaker Lee Chatfield kind of questioned yesterday on Twitter. He said, "Is this about what's the science and data, or is this political science that's being executed here?" And so the governor has to answer questions for that. But at the same time, we all really ought to be in favor of trying to get schools reopened, I think.
No doubt. I got a bunch of other things I still want to get to. So let's take a quick break. We'll continue with more. This is Flashpoint on Local 4.
There's a reason we created the Suburban Express purchase. to offer you more convenience, more choices, and more savings. The Suburban Express purchase allows you to craft your very own automotive buying experience. You can start online and then come into one of our now open showrooms to take delivery, or you can complete the entire process online and we'll deliver the car to you. Choose from over 7,000 new and used vehicles representing over 30 brands. The Suburban Express purchase, only at drivesuburban.com.
You're all set to retire. You have your home paid off, money in the bank, and sound investments. But if you're not careful, all the things that you work so hard for can disappear. At Samasco Financial, we'll help you prevent that. We go beyond ordinary asset management. We'll safeguard everything that you have by creating a plan made specifically for you. How much can you afford to lose? Nothing. Protect the people that you love and the things that you have. Call Samasco Financial today.
Gardner White welcomes Stearns & Foster, America's handcrafted mattress collection. Save on the largest selection of Stearns & Foster mattresses in Detroit. In stock every day with free same-day delivery. Sleep on a Stearns & Foster rollout queen set for as low as $17 a month with a free TV. When we say yes to credit with 0% financing up to 60 months. Shop and save on the Stearns & Foster collection today at Gardner White, Detroit's new #1 mattress store.
So many have fallen on hard times, and there are bad guys out there trying to take advantage.
We're here to tell your stories. That's why we need your help.
So many of our investigations started with an email from a viewer like you.
So if you see something that needs to be investigated,
or you're looking for justice long overdue,
contact the local 4 defendants.
In times like this, investigative reporting
has never been so important.
Welcome back, Flashpoints. We continue with our roundtable. We've got Portia Roberson, former Congressman Dave Trott, and Chad Livengood joining us. Chad, I've been wanting to, as we continue to talk about the impact of the pandemic on so many things, this is getting a lot of attention in business circles. I'm not sure it's top of mind everywhere else. I'm really trying to figure out what's going to happen to the commercial real estate world, as now we've got all of these businesses have figured out that people can work from home. We don't need to be spending all this money on office rental space. I've wondered how much of that is driving the IPO decision going on with Dan Gilbert and the rocket companies. But what's the outlook here for what happens to the way that we've been doing business for so long?
Yeah, I mean, you're Dan Gilbert and you're sitting on a couple million square feet of office space in downtown Detroit that is completely vacant right now. And you also have all the retail space below it. And you're basically waiving rent right now for restaurants that are still closed that depend on your employees to fill those restaurants. It's not a really a good outlook right now, and we don't really know all the driving factors of Dan Gilbert's decision to try to take Quicken Loans public, which the company is valuing itself at $40 billion. And this is a company that we found out from the filings with the SEC. They made $900 million last year. I mean, on paper, this company is mature and printing money almost at this point. But they've been continuing to do this in the pandemic. They had a record month in March in new mortgage originations. They broke the record the next month. They broke the next record again in May. They say they're going to keep doing it, and they're doing it with mortgage bankers working in their basement. It's anyone's guess how this is going to work out. But it definitely has to be giving some people pause if they're looking to make investments in real estate.
I've been thinking that maybe they just hadn't gotten the notice yet that there's a pandemic going on. Portia, what do you think this does to business as usual, the way that we've understood it?
Well, I think there's no more business as usual. I mean, I think what Chad said is absolutely right. Why bring everybody back to work? I mean, certainly there's some, argument for the camaraderie and people being able to see one another. But look, people don't even feel comfortable doing that. So even if we open those buildings back up or people, held on to that commercial real estate, nobody wants to come back in. And if you're being successful, I mean, it's the same thing we have at our nonprofit. I mean, we're able to do our work without people coming in every day. So why rush people back, right? Why risk their safety? So I think, you're going to see a change in whether or not people are going to say when this is all said and done, I want to go out and get tons and tons of commercial or office space for my employees if they don't really have to come back to work to get the job done.
Yeah, exactly. Congressman, rather than letting you weigh in on that, before we say goodbye here today, we watched the farewell to civil rights pioneer John Lewis this past week. And in your time in Congress, I know you had some interesting time that you got to spend with the congressman.
Yeah, he was just a very kind man. And whenever students would come visit me in D.C., I would always set up a picture on the Capitol steps with them. And inevitably, Congressman Lewis would be either coming up or down the steps when the students were there. It happened probably half a dozen times. And I would always ask him to come over and speak with the students. And he was incredibly gracious with his time. He would talk with all the students, tell them the importance of getting involved and making a difference. He'd pose for pictures with all the students, and all of them knew who he was.
Yes.
So they were so excited to meet him, and he just couldn't have been nicer to me. And he clearly was the conscience of the Congress.
You have the story that everybody, of course, whoever knew John Lewis seems to have. I got about a minute left. I want to go around all three of you here really quickly. And if you want to give me a prediction or what you think might happen, we expect Joe Biden is going to tell us who his running mate's going to be this week. Chad, what are your thoughts?
I told you I got out of the prediction business in 2016. I think he will pick a woman of color.
That's as far as you're willing to go.
I can do better than that. That's the courage
upon which this great journalistic career of Chad Livengood has been built upon. Portia, a Democratic insider, you know your way around the Justice Department. You know a lot of the players involved. What are your thoughts, and what are we going to see this week?
I think it's going to come down to Kamala Harris or Susan Rice. Kamala can raise a ton of money, which is what you need in a vice presidential candidate, but we're not doing retail politics right now, so it might not be as necessary as it would have been otherwise. And then you've got Susan Rice, who's an insider, who's smart as a whip, who has a lot of foreign experience. So I think it would be one of the two of them.
Congressman Trott, quickly, I got about 10 seconds.
I agree with Portia, either Kamala Harris or Susan Rice, but an outsider to keep an eye on is Karen Bass from California. She'd be a great choice.
Yeah. A lot more talk about her lately. Thanks, gang, so much for being here, and thank you for being here as well. Meet the Press is next. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Flashpoint.